Hey, welcome to the Eddie Hott podcast. I am your host and teacher, Eddie Hott. I'm so glad to be back with you. And I'm going to do some reading today of some very, very important material that is found in my latest book called America's Reawakening. Now, this is about what I'm reading today is about America's founding documents. So, even if you're listening in another country, whether Canada, South Africa, wherever it may be, I would love to hear from you. And this will be a great blessing to you and give insight and understanding uh, of what the relationship should be between civil government and the church and Christian faith. Now, I'm reading from chapter 14, which is a chapter entitled, it's a question, the title is a question, is the U.S. Constitution a covenant? Because the America's founding documents were patterned after the church covenants of the dissenting Protestants who were the first immigrants to this country, such as the Pilgrims and so on. They wrote up covenants between themselves and within their congregations and between God, committing themselves to be faithful to God and to one another. And these were very common in colonial America, and they became the basis for America's founding documents. Now, there is something in the Constitution in the First Amendment that is so misused, abused, and misunderstood today that I'm going to address it. And it's about this phrase, the separation of church and state. We have heard that parroted and repeated so much by politicians and in the news media that most people think it's in the Constitution. It is not. And so I have a section on page 151. I call it, and it's in chapter 14. I call it the separation of church and state hoax. And it is a hoax that has been perpetrated upon the American people and used as a weapon to try and keep Christian values and Christian expressions out of government, out of the public square. So let me just go ahead and read this to you. This will be very, very enlightening. The founders are clear in their writings that they believed Christian values to be the key for a stable and happy nation. That is why the modern idea of a so called separation of church and state is so out of touch with America's founding. The phrase separation of church and state is nowhere to be found in America's founding documents. It is a phrase formulated by secularists who use it in their fight to ban Christian expressions from the public arena. It has been repeated so often and with such confidence that many erroneously think it is in the Constitution. Separation of church and state is based on a contorted and twisted novel interpretation of the guarantee of religious liberty in the First Amendment that reads, Congress shall make no law concerning the establishment of religion or hindering the free exercise thereof. For those who know their history, it is obvious that this was a ban against a tyrannical state church, like those from which their parents and grandparents had fled. Now, in this book, especially in the early chapters, I give a historical overview of how this whole idea of a state church, of an official state church, how it developed with Constantine in the 4th century. Man, this book is filled with so much insight. This should be required reading in every American school. Now, so let me read this again. For those who know their history, it is obvious that this was a ban against a tyrannical state church, like those from which their parents and grandparents had fled. Consider the fact that the Northwest Ordinance, which was formulated by the same founders in 1787, emphasized the importance of religion. And by the way, when the founders use the word religion, they're talking about Christianity. That was their religion. That was the only religion they knew. They emphasize the importance of religion for good government. Written as a governing document for the newly created Northwest Territory, it states, listen to this, religion, morality, and knowledge being necessary to good government, and the happiness of mankind, schools, and the means of education shall forever be encouraged. Do you hear that? These same founders, they say that religion and morality are necessary to good government and the happiness of mankind. Secularists, nonetheless, have taken the first part of the phrase, Congress shall make no law concerning the establishment of religion, and have labeled it the Establishment Clause. They have conveniently ignored the second part of the phrase, which reads, nor hindering the free exercise thereof. Despite all the evidence to the contrary, they have taken the so-called Establishment Clause and argued that any Christian expression allowed on public property amounts to a government establishment of religion and therefore a violation of the First Amendment. This argument has been used to ban Bible reading, prayer, and the display of the Ten Commandments from public schools and all public property. They have found liberal secularist judges who have gone along with this distorted approach to the First Amendment of the Constitution. So, this has happened because American Christians have been ignorant of our own history. The history, however, is clear that the founders had no intention of banning Christian expressions from the public square. In fact, the day after ratifying the First Amendment, those same founders proclaimed a national day of thanksgiving and prayer to God. Now, Thomas Jefferson is the one who used the phrase wall of separation, not in the Constitution, but in a letter to a group of Baptists, assuring them that the First Amendment provided what he called a wall of separation that would protect them from government intrusion. Now, listen to this. This is very important. It shows you where this distorted phrase has originated. It was in a letter dated January the 1st, 1802. Thomas Jefferson was the president at the time, and he responded to a letter and that asked him an important question from the Danbury Baptist Association of Connecticut, and uh, and they had expressed concern to President Jefferson about how they would be treated in this new nation. Now, they had reason for concern because throughout Europe, the Baptists had been an outlawed religious sect severely persecuted by the state and the state sanctioned churches, both Catholic and Protestant. In Europe, they had been imprisoned, they had been tortured, they had been put to death. And they had also suffered persecution in colonial America, particularly in Virginia, at the hands of the Anglican Church, which before the founding of the nation, the Anglican Church was the official church of Virginia, and all other denominations and sects, they were outlawed. They had to get special permission. And when Baptists went in there preaching, they were jailed by the Virginia authorities. But Thomas Jefferson, he opposed this. When he was governor of Virginia, he proposed a law to give freedom to everybody. So now they're writing a letter to him. What's it going to be like in this new nation? Probably they wrote to him because they knew he had been someone who had advocated for their freedom and for their cause. So, in response to their request of how they were going to be treated in this new nation, Jefferson quoted that part of the First Amendment that reads, Congress shall make no law concerning the establishment of religion, nor prohibiting the free exercise thereof. And he assured this Baptist Association that this meant that in America there would be a wall of separation that would protect them and any other religious group from the intrusion of the state. Now, listen to this. Jefferson quite obviously saw the First Amendment as a unidirectional wall in place to protect the church and individual Christians from the government. Not to keep God out of the government, absolutely not, but to protect Christians and denominations and churches, to protect them from government intrusion. Jefferson is clear that that's why he used this word wall of separation. He used it to these persecuted Baptists and say, no, in this new nation, we have set up a wall that's going to protect you from government tyranny. My friends, this is the historical context and the real meaning of the First Amendment to the Constitution. Congress shall make no law concerning the establishment of religion, nor hindering the free exercise thereof. I hope you will get a copy of this book. This book dispels so many lies that modern secularists have twisted of our history and our founding documents and imposed upon modern American society. It's called America's Reawakening. It is available now in paperback. It's available in Kindle, and it is available in audio from Amazon. I encourage you to check it out and get one for yourself, get one for your pastor, for your Sunday school teacher, or if you have any people that you know who are teachers in the public schools, especially those who teach history classes, get them a copy. This book has I believe God's going to use it as a tool to reawaken America, to take us back to our national roots in God, faith, and freedom. I'm Eddie Hite. This is the Eddie Hite Podcast. I look forward to seeing you next time. God bless you.